Okay, welcome everyone to the Story Genius webinar Q&A. We're very happy to have you here. I'm Jenny Nash, and I'm here with Lisa Cron, who is the author of Story Genius. And here is the picture of her brand new book cover, and she's the mastermind behind everything, Story Genius. Maybe she is the mastermind behind everyone too.
You're not supposed to tell them that. No, I'm just kidding.
So we're going to start talking about the 5 key questions we're going to go through today that you need to ask yourself about your novel. So first, and then we're going to talk to you about the class, but first we're going to talk about, so what exactly is a story?
Exactly. If you don't know what a story is, how can you write one? So what is a story? What can we bring it down to in the simplest possible terms? Because, I mean, what often happens, as I'm sure if you've ever heard me say anything or read anything, I'm always quoting Flannery O'Connor's great quote, most people know what a story is until they sit down to write one. So the first question, before we can even talk about the steps that you want to take to write a story, is, okay, well, what the heck is a story? What is it that's grabbing people? What is a story exactly? So I think that takes us to our next slide and bringing it down in the simplest possible terms. I guess first we're going to talk about what a story isn't. Okay, what isn't a story? What do we tend to think a story is? I think we tend to think a story is either it's a great voice. Because, when you read a story and you really like it, or a novel, that's what we tend to say, oh my gosh, I love that writer. They've got such a great voice. They're so clever. They're so funny. They're so wry. They're so insightful. I'd read anything that writer writes. But that's not what a story is, nor is a story the dramatic plot. That is not what's pulling you in. A dramatic plot, it's easy to think of that as just a bunch of big external dramatic things that happen. But as we'll see, that's not what makes the plot dramatic, or that's not even what pulls us into the plot. And the other thing a story isn't is gorgeous writing. It is not about learning. I'll learn to write really beautifully and really well, and I'll have this really beautiful, again, voice and this great writing. And somehow, if I learn to write really well and these gorgeous sentences and great metaphors, then a story is going to appear, and that's what's going to make my story great. And while all those things certainly can be in a story, they're not what a story is, nor are they what we're really, responding to when we're lost in the story. And that feeling, you're reading a book and you think, okay, I'll put it down, I'll go to sleep, I'm really tired. And it's like one more page, because you just can't, because you've got that. It's literally, believe it or not, you guys, it's biological. A good story really puts your brain on, it presses the pause button. And now you really literally are lost in the world of a story. So what is that? What is a story? And that brings us to our very simple definition of a story, which is, a story is a single, unavoidable external problem, that's the plot, that grows, escalates, and complicates. And here's the point. In doing so, it forces the protagonist to make an internal change in order to really even have a shot at solving that external problem. And that is really the key point. The story is not external. It's not about the plot. Story is about how the plot affects the protagonist, and it forces them to make an internal change, a long-needed interminable change. Try to say that fast. And that's what your story is actually about, that internal change. And if you're thinking, well, kind of, wait a minute, change from what to what? Like, what does that actually mean? I don't understand. That brings us to the point, and really part of what we're going to be digging into today, which is all protagonists enter the story already needing to make a change. And you need to know what that is in detail before you can come up with a plot. That single unavoidable external problem is going to grow, escalate, and complicate. That's going to be capable of forcing the protagonist to make that change. And that brings us, I think, because with our new technology, I can't see what the next slide is. I think that is going to bring us to, why Story Genius is different, of course. Well, duh. And the answer is, it focuses first on developing that protagonist's internal change. And then, as we're going to talk about, the plot that's going to force her to make it. And just to be super clear. It's not like developing that internal change and what we're going to talk about in terms of the protagonist and who they are and what they want. That's not pre-writing. It's not like, okay, here's all this work you have to do, and then you're going to get to your novel. Because all stories begin what's known as en medias res, meaning in the middle of the thing. The middle is actually that first page of your novel. Story began long before in the past, and that part in the past is the most fundamental layer of your story. Everything that you create through these 5 questions and through the Story Genius process will be within the pages of your novel. It will be laced into every page. And not only that, developing this often, and I have found this, for a very long time working with writers, the plot starts to appear as you're digging into these questions that we're going to be asking you. So the point is, nothing goes to waste. This is writing. So I think the next slide is going to be what the questions are. Yes, okay, good.
I'm trying to get it up on my phone so I can. It's not happening.
No. Technology does not like us today.
But the 5 key questions is so good. So we're going to go through them one by one.
Yes. So and the first question is, and it's something really interesting, but that writers often don't ask, and it's so simple. What's your point? What are you trying to say? What point is your story making? Because it's really important to realize that all stories make a point beginning on the very first page. And if you don't know what that point is, how can you write a story that actually makes it when you're a reader? And watch now when you read or watch a movie or your favorite TV show. In the beginning, you have some idea where it's going. You have some idea that point is a yardstick that you use to go, okay, this tells me what things mean. This gives me an idea of where this is going and why these things matter. And so I know what the journey is. I can make it actually add up. But at this point, you don't have a reader yet. How could you? You're just writing it. So for you to know what that point is, it means that you will be able to then tailor everything to make that point. And if we can see what's on the next slide, just so I'm sure I'm going exactly right. This is so nerve-wracking. Right, so just that. And the point that your story is going to make is something about human nature. What are you saying about human nature? What are you saying about what it means to be human and how to better navigate this, mortal coil before we toddle off it? That's what we come to story for. We don't come for what's happening outside on the surface. We come for what's going on beneath the surface. How is that person really reacting? What do they really mean? So the point you're making isn't about that external thing that's going to happen, which is the plot. The point you're making is this internal change that your protagonist is going to be going through, and that's how you make the point. It's not like you figure out what the point is and then you tell us. If you were writing an op-ed, then maybe, and even they kind of lead up to it toward the end or in the beginning, specifically, and they can state it outright. You're not going to have to tell us. The way your story is going to make the point is through this gradual internal change. And it's not like your protagonist is going to just, keep changing for the better all the way through. There'll be 1 step forward, 3 steps back, or however that saying goes, as they earn that internal change. And by the end, when they get to, as I think we'll discuss, I don't know if we discuss that here or not, but their aha moment where they suddenly see things differently, that's the moment that your story is going to make this point. So it really helps to dig down to it. So you want to ask yourself, what am I saying about human nature? And again, it's this savvy inside intel. That's what we're wired for. We come to story to figure out, how do I navigate the surface, the internal social world? And when I say social world, I don't mean like dating, although certainly that falls into this, but just how do I navigate my life with other people? How do I do that better? That's what we're looking for. And one last thing is not on the slide, but to ask yourself is, well, what do I want people to walk away thinking about? And then the last thing to think about that might help you zero in on this is why do you care about it? Why is it important to you? Why do you want to write this story? And that might really help you kind of zero into the point. And one last thing, Jenny, that we always talk about is, do not worry if when you get your point, it sounds super cliche, because it very well might. It's just going to be a big red X that's going to help you dig down to the specific way you're specifically going to make that point. So don't worry if it sounds, like something that you'd put on a bumper sticker, or like if you told your writers group they would, make you be the one that brings cookies for a year, and you're not allowed to, to talk about anything because they think it's just way too cliche. Don't worry about that. Just ask yourself, what's my point? And that brings us to the next question, which is, who is your protagonist at the moment before the plot kicks in? That's what you want to know, because again, and you'll see we're kind of working backwards here to dig down into what this change your protagonist is going to have to make. You know your point now. And now the question is, who is your protagonist before they know what you have in store for them? I mean, for your protagonist at the moment, it's like morning in America. They have no idea that you're about to shove them into a dark and stormy night. They think whatever they've got in their lives is probably going to keep going from now until they do toddle off this mortal coil. So that's what you're looking for. Who are they? Because your protagonist is going to be, as you see there, your reader's avatar throughout the pages of your novel. The command center of your novel actually is your protagonist's brain. We come to story, and we do, and I love this, to do kind of like a Vulcan mind meld with your protagonist, how they are seeing things. The way they see things is how we see things. We're in their head as they're struggling with that plot problem. In fact, that's where your story's narrative thread really lives and breathes. It's not in what happens externally. It's in how is that forcing your protagonist to struggle internally in order to make a decision. Because in every single scene, your protagonist is going to be forced to make a really hard decision that they probably don't want to make. And that's going to send them internally to try to figure out what the right thing to do is. And that's what we come for. That's what we want to know. That evolving internal change, again, as we just said, is how your story makes its point. So what you're looking for now is who that protagonist is before the plot kicks in. And really, you're asking yourself, whose story is it? And you kind of notice it, right? You always hear people say, whose story is it? Did you ever hear anybody say, whose plot is it? Of course not, because that's not what we ask. It's whose story. So you want to know, and what you really want to dig down to here is, what's going on in your protagonist's life right before the story starts? What do they believe? What do they want? How do they see themselves as to where they are in their lives? Often it's either, one of two things. It could be many things, but often it's either, I'm so happy with the way things are. It's perfect. I want my life to stay like this forever. Or perhaps a little more realistically, it's, I know I'm not really getting what I want, but this is the best I can do, and I've learned to make my peace with it. So I'm going to go forward, and I'll just take it from here on out as it is. And now what your plot will do once that kicks in is to say, no, that's not what's going to happen. But this is what you need to know first. And again, just one caveat when you're doing this, you're not looking at superficial things like hair color or eye color or anything that doesn't relate to this change that you want your protagonist to make, anything that doesn't relate to the point that you're making. So it's not a big birth to death. Who are they at that moment? It's again, story-specific questions. And I think that, for me, Jenny, that's the beauty of this system, is that even from the very beginning, it helps you. It gives you the context to unleash your creativity, because it helps you focus in on, well, wait, what am I trying to say, and what is that point, so you know where to look for it in your protagonist's life. And right now, that's what you're doing. Again, the moment before. The story's medias res, here's page 1. It's who's your protagonist before they even know there's going to be a page 1. And then the next question that you want to ask, the next question is, what is your protagonist's agenda? Because that overarching agenda is what's going to drive their behavior and what they do from the minute they walk onto the page until they walk off the page at the end. And the key question here is, what does your protagonist enter already wanting really badly? And this is something that I found that writers often don't even ask themselves, because it's a long-standing desire. It's something that they've wanted really, really, really for a very, very, very long time. And again, as we just said, it's going to define their story long overarching agenda. And writers often don't even ask that question. I taught a class at UCLA a couple years back, and every person in it was either in the middle of a work in progress, or some of them were on like a second or third draft. I said, okay, let's go around the room and say, what does your protagonist enter wanting? And not one of them could answer the question. And a few were surprised it even was a question. So this is what you want to ask yourself. And just, you can look to your own life for this. It's like if tomorrow was page 1 of your novel, now the next 3 years of your life is going to be a novel. You don't enter that at tabula rasa with no desires, no anything. Right now, you probably have a pretty good idea of what you want to happen, within that next year or two. You know where the dangers lie. You know what you're afraid of. You know what you're building toward. Same thing with your protagonist. So that's what you want to know, but you want to focus in on this one seminal thing. What is this long-standing desire that they have had, but obviously not yet been able to get, that they're going to enter the story already wanting before they have any idea of what you've got in store for them? So that is question number 3. Next question to ask you. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You can go back and do that. You can go back. I know, I get to the slide.
So no, you did it. You did it. You're so good. You're so good.
And wait, and no, go back. I know technology. Because one last thing there is, and the other question you want to ask yourself is, why do they want it? Why does he or she want that thing they want? Because it's not just the thing, like they want $1 million, or they want to be happy, or they want to find love. Why do they want it? What does it mean to them to get it? What do they think it'll say about them if they do get it? Because now we're digging down into, and we're using that tool that will be like your BFF as you're writing. It's kind of your BFF in life, I think, too, which is to always ask why. Don't be satisfied with the what. Story is not about the what. Story is about the why. So even now, you're not just satisfied with knowing what they want. You want to know why they want it. Okay, now I'm done with this slide. We can go. And question 4, and this is now we're really digging into the seminal place where conflict lies in your story. And that is, what long-standing misbelief is going to derail your protagonist? What misbelief are they going to have to confront and overcome to have a shot at getting what they want? What is that going to be? Let's go to the next slide just so I can see what's there so I don't embarrass myself. Okay, so story is about, again, it's about what it costs your protagonist internally to change. Story is actually about the internal cost of making an external change. And of course, the question you're asking here is, from what to what? And that is what brings you to this misbelief. In fact, the way your point is made is that your protagonist goes through, the plot forces them ultimately to question this misbelief. And at the end, what do they say? The scales fall from their eyes, and now they see the world without the misbelief. And Jenny, do I have 1 second to talk about what a misbelief actually is?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, I would kind of like to define a misbelief. Because you might be thinking, well, that's sort of like a fatal flaw or a wound. And I do not use those terms. I think they are misleading. Fatal flaw, for one thing, I mean, like, think about it, you guys. Fatal flaw, doesn't that sound really judgmental? It sounds like very finger waggy, like, you have a flaw. It's almost like, you know what you're doing, right? We say to our significant other, right? I don't have to tell you, you know what you're doing. And it's like they're kind of doing it on purpose. It's like it makes them bad. It's like they're weak, or it's a moral failing. And somehow you'll create a plot. Maybe my plot's going to help you learn your lesson. Maybe not. We'll see. So I don't think of it as a fatal flaw. That word flaw is just makes your heart beat faster. And wound is the other direction. It kind of makes your protagonist into a victim. Life has hurt you, you poor thing, and hopefully my plot will heal you. And well, both of those things might be true. A misbelief is something very different. It's not, it is actually, believe it or not, neutral. And most of us, you can look to your own life. Most of us have these in our own lives, literatures in life, right? And it's a defining misbelief. It's something that happens early in your protagonist's life, usually in childhood or the early teen years, where something hard was happening, something probably traumatic. And in order to save themselves from that, this misbelief was born. They go, oh, I know how to deal with this. And in that moment, what they believed would help them deal with it was in fact true. It did help them. It in fact did work. It was adaptive. So misbelief is something that in a moment was adaptive. The problem is it was in a very unique and bad situation. Once they're out of that situation, what was adaptive at that moment is now maladaptive. But they don't know it. because it saved them. So they don't see it as, oh my gosh, this is something that's bad, it's a flaw, I need to get over it. They see it as, if they even think about it, well, I'm really lucky to have learned this early in life. This is something that's going to steer my life. I learned this piece of info, and now it's going to help me lead a better, more productive, or certainly happier life. And what they don't realize is the misbelief is the very thing that's keeping them from getting what they want. It's not saving them, it's hurting them. And that's what your plot is going to force them to finally really look at and question and see. But as you can see, there's nothing negative or pejorative about it. It is kind of the only thing in story on one level, the way it comes in, is it's neutral. And I think it helps us to be kinder to ourselves, because it's easy to beat yourself up for your flaws. And often they're like, no, that was adaptive at that point. It just isn't anymore. And now I need to figure that out. And that's what stories are about. So that's what a misbelief is. And now the fifth question you want to ask yourself is, what external plot problem, now we're up to the plot, is going to force your protagonist to go after what? That slide looks so fun. What? It looks like it says what the wants. Technology definitely doesn't like us today. But what he wants. And this is a trickier question than I think is sometimes seen. Because when you get down to that external plot problem, and again, here's one thing to think about that writers often miss. Your plot is going to revolve around one single problem, one thing that is going to grow, escalate, and complicate from page one all the way till the end. It's not something vague that's kind of going to not really have any consequence, and at the end they'll either solve it or not, but we won't worry about it. It's not one problem that they solve by chapter 4 and now we got to come up with a new one. It's not 3 or 4 different problems. The same way your story only makes one point. Yes, that point evolves and pulls in other stuff, but it's one point that's growing, escalating, and complicating. One internal change that grows, escalates, and complicates because it's being forced to by this external plot problem. So you want to be sure it's something that is going to last the arc of your novel from beginning to end, and that it is this one thing. And you want to be sure, as we just said, that it's a problem that has mounting consequences. So, basically just like in life, everything you do to make something better tends to only make it worse, because it's really hard to see that the thing that you think is helping you is actually holding you back. So it needs to have mounting consequences. And often, though, the biggest struggle and the biggest tension and conflict is this internal conflict with what should I do? The struggle between the thing that they want and the misbelief that they think is helping them get it and is actually doing the exact opposite. As in every single scene, they're forced to make some sort of difficult decision, and they're forced to think about that, which brings us to our, let me just go back to that last one. Just to that last one, that everything that happens in the plot, and now this is the point, this is why there's no drama without this internal quest. Everything that happens in your plot is going to get its meaning and emotional weight. And that is birth, death, fall of the Roman Empire. If we're just hearing about that in general, it's a Wikipedia entry. We don't care. Believe it or not, it is dramatic. What makes it dramatic is that we care about people. We care about how this is going to affect someone, and not in general, and not even just like, oh my gosh, here's person A and this might kill them. It's person A and it might kill them, and we care about them because we know they're trying to do X, Y, or Z. And if they get stopped here, they're not going to be able to do it. That's why we care. So it is this internal that gives meaning to the external, no matter how big the external is. So now we can go to the next slide. I'm done. And so the question you want to ask yourself again, and this is good because now we can go through this more quickly, is does it have the problem to grow? Does the problem have the problem that it can't? Have the power? Because by the time you get to this place, you might, especially as we do in Story Genius, as we did in the book Story Genius, where we actually go through, and Jenny, who very kindly and wonderfully and foolishly, like, what have I got myself into? Volunteered to take her next novel from like the basic, first blush of a teeny tiny idea all the way through to, to a blueprint to go forward, writing actual scenes. But by the time she got really to that first page, there were 3 or 4 different problems that could have, that could have carried that novel, they could have made it go through one way or another. And so the question was, which one was it going to be? So you might have many at this point. And so, yeah, please.
Oh no, carry on.
Okay. So you might have many. So you want to figure out first, can it escalate, and can it make the consequences get worse and worse and worse as it goes forward? Is there a ticking clock where it really matters? And then the really important question, once you've answered that question, is it going to force your protagonist to confront that misbelief in one way or another? And the misbelief by this point has been internalized. It's not like they're thinking it in that sort of cliche way all the way through. It's driven their behavior from when it came into being up until your novel starts, so that it's now manifest in behavior and in the way that they look at life and think about their past. But you want to be sure that, is this plot problem going to be able to force them to struggle with that and force them to take action every step of the way? Because in every scene, again, there's action. Your protagonist is forced to have this internal struggle. What do they do? What's right? What's wrong? Given what they want, what their agenda is, and what they want to, how they want to be seen by the world. Then they take some action. That action usually doesn't, like most things in life, doesn't turn out exactly the way they thought it would. And now they go back, and now they're changed. By the time they go to the next scene, the way they see things has changed, and probably their plan for achieving their agenda has shifted a bit.
So Lisa, there are a couple questions that we are getting. Not that I can see the chat, but Jade is relaying them to me on my phone.
You see, we're making it work in an analog sort of way. But yes, okay.
So people would like to know if you can give an example of a misbelief, or maybe a few examples of a misbelief, and then there's another question following that.
Okay, let me give two. One is and again, neither of these are from necessarily books or movies. One is let me give you an example that I've been using lately when I speak. And it would be, for instance, let's say that your protagonist is, that she grew up in a dysfunctional family. And I always think, what does that even mean? Like, show me a functional family, and I'll show you someone who really has stuff going on in the basement. But anyway, so she comes from a very dysfunctional family. Let's say she's got some siblings, and they're basically pretty feral. And at one point, she's, 7 or 8, and she's been saving up her money because she wants to buy this really, special stuffed bunny to take to school for show and tell, because she thinks this is who she really is. Now her classmates will see her as someone who's viable, and it has deep meaning for her. So she saved up her money. She's about to go buy it. And she discovers her money is gone. And she is bereft. She hasn't really told anybody about it that much because, it's this feral family. But now her older sister comes to her and she says, I've really watched you, and I really know how much that bunny meant. I know you're not talking about, but I get how much that bunny meant to you. And I know your money's gone missing. I wonder how it went missing, right? But I took everything I had, and I went to the store, and I bought you not just that bunny, but the whole family of bunnies, because I know what it means to take that tomorrow. And now our protagonist is feeling so loved. I thought I couldn't trust them. I feel so loved. I feel so seen. I feel so heard. I feel so taken care of. I trust you. And then her sister says, but in doing that, I did spend all my money, and I need to go out tonight with Todd, and it's my turn to pay. And Mom's really mad at me because I did stay out the past 3 nights, and I can't make that up to her now. And I know she's got that $100 bill in her purse. I know it's for food, but do you think maybe you could just sneak into the kitchen and distract her, because she really loves you? You're so cute. And at that moment, the protagonist realizes, okay, wait a minute. Time out. She goes, wait a minute, you know what? My sister doesn't really care about me. She doesn't like me. She hasn't seen me. In fact, anything she's seen, she's simply using to manipulate me. She only did this nice thing because she wants me to do something for her. Something's going to get me in trouble. And that at that moment, that was 100% true. And at that moment, it saved her. And it might have saved her from a lot of pain, as she grew up in that particular family. But the lesson she took from that is, the nicer someone is to you, the more it seems like they see you, the more it seems like they get you, the more they're actually trying to con you, and they're after something. Now, I really hope that isn't true, is it? That's not true in real life with everybody, right? I mean, it isn't. Okay, we're just going to say it isn't. But that would be an example of a misbelief. And
so, Lisa, I want to just jump in and clarify, because what you just showed us was actually the origin scene, which is
true.
We work on in the workshop. She just went through the whole scene in which that character's misbelief came to be felt. But the misbelief itself is what people were asking about.
Right.
So in the story that I develop in Story Genius, the misbelief was, it's usually, we talked before about a bumper sticker. It usually is just something super short like that, like love costs more than it's worth, or nice guys never prosper, or technology is evil, or the meek shall inherit the earth. I mean, we could go on for days, but the misbelief that we guide you to is super short, super cliche. It tends to be very, it looks like a motivational poster. And then what we help you do is develop that type of scene that Lisa was just going through, where, okay, that's the why. Why does that person believe that thing? And it's never just like the example Lisa just gave. It's never just, well, they grew up in a dysfunctional family, so of course they believe that. It's a specific moment. That's the bunnies. It's a specific moment that happens in a specific point of time that is the moment when it really locks in the protagonist's life. But the misbelief itself is the bumper sticker. So we can see if people are confused about that later. But the other thing people wanted, Lisa, was an example of a plot with a single problem that grows.
I think it's kind of hard to find one that doesn't have that. If you start, I mean, I can just talk about a book I just finished reading that actually our Jade recommended. Oh my God, it's so dark. Which is called Perfect Days. And the problem that starts in the beginning is the main character, who is a psychopath, decides that he has now fallen in love, and he decides that this woman is going to love him, and so he's going to kidnap her and make her love him, and that problem grows, escalates, and complicates from page 1 all the way through to the end. I think you can, Die Hard, the problem that grows, escalates, and complicates is John McClane going to be able to, stop all the pseudo-terrorists and save everybody? That's external problem that grows, escalates, and complicates. Gone with the Wind, is she going to be able to save Tara at the end and save her? I think you can and that's a big, massive saga, but at the end of the day, that's what she wants. And that's the problem that she's struggling with, holding on to land.
And something that I want to just jump in here to reiterate, we have, I believe, 2 out of the 10 weeks in the workshop are devoted to precisely this question. And Lisa has a really cool set of tests that you put your plot problem to make sure that it can grow, escalate, and complicate. And if it doesn't pass the test, you go back to go, and you go around and around until you have it right. So that's one of the key things we do work on. We have another question that is a really good question about misbelief, but I'm going to hold it for just a second in case people really set aside an hour for the webinar. I want to make sure we get through the rest of it, and then we can stay and answer questions for, I mean, I can stay a long time, Lisa. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, me too, 100%.
Okay. All right, so I just want to talk quickly about the workshop itself and how it works, and I will go through that pretty quickly. So the Story Genius workshop is a 10-week class that starts October 4th, and it ends in the middle of December. This is the link. You can go to the sales page and sign up. You can go grab your seat there. So the 10 weeks, we were somewhat amazed when we finished building the course that there's over 900 minutes of video.
And another thing.
And that's me and Lisa doing what we're doing right here, where we go through lessons and we have slides and we take you through step-by-step what you're supposed to do. And you get that video as a video. You also get it as an MP3 if you want to listen on your commute. Or while you're cooking, or whatever, you have the audio. And then we also have a transcript if you are a learner who likes to see it on paper. So every week you get a video and an assignment there's a workbook that you actually do the assignment right in the workbook and send it to your book coach. This is one of the primary benefits of this program, is that you will be assigned a book coach who has been trained in Lisa's method and trained by Lisa and me, and specifically to give feedback on Lisa's method. And you will get weekly editorial feedback from them within 72 hours of your submitting your work. The reason that I designed Author Accelerator to give this kind of feedback is, as Lisa and I both know, the writing workshops, typical writing workshops, are very frustrating for the writer and the instructor alike, because you just simply don't have time to get into everybody's work to the level that you want. And we know that the best way to improve your writing is to have one-on-one consistent feedback. So you're going to get that every week. And just to make it clear, it's not from me and Lisa, it's from the Story Genius trained book coaches who work for Author Accelerator, and they are awesome. I mean, like, really amazing. Am I right, Lisa?
You could not be more right. I am blown away every time I look, because we do oversee a bit. Like, we look just to go, let's just take a look at it. And I'm always completely, sometimes surprised, and always, I mean, I don't mean surprised like, but surprised like, this is way better than I thought. Sometimes it's even, this person took the time to go into more detail than I would have taken the time to go into, and always spot on. So they really do know where to dig in and what strategic questions to ask to unlock the story. And that, I think, is really the key thing, is knowing, okay, where does the story lie? That's what I feel like a good coach always does. They see on the surface where you're going, and they look, this is what I say to writers all the time now, usually the answer to what is going to happen next or what's going on is in your story's own backyard, to sound like Dorothy, right? It's right there in the backyard. And they have the skill to see what's beneath the surface that you might not yet see, or questions you might not have thought to ask yet, and then to stiletto, is what I like to use, a stiletto, pinpoint, whatever metaphor you want to use, in and ask you those questions that can just unlock not only the character, not only what's going on, but often what might happen in the plot. So I know that's a long way to say, yes, I think they're really great, and they're also really kind and empathetic. And I think,
and that's worth talking about, because I hire and handpick every single one of these people, and my top criteria, I mean, I have 4 criteria, which is I can run through really quickly, but it's mechanical expertise in editing. Like, they really understand how to edit line by line and what to look for. Big picture expertise, story expertise, which is very unusual to come by. Usually people who are good at line editing are not thinking big picture about story. They have to understand the big picture way a story works. They have to have an eye towards the marketplace. Most of the people who come to us are very interested in not only being published, but in getting readers once they are published. So the book coaches I hire have to have a sense of the way books work in the marketplace. And then finally, they have to be really, really nice and compassionate about how hard it is to be a writer and do this work. And so nice is not an afterthought. They're very, very nice. And that's not to say that they're not going to be tough. They're going to be tough. But they're going to be tough with compassion.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. I always felt that way. Anything I ever taught, it's like if I'm not 100% honest, it's like if your friend's going in like to the most important job interview of their life, and you know they have like spinach in their teeth, and you don't want to hurt their feelings by telling them. It's like, tell them. But in a way that is constructive. This might not be working. Here's what you might want to look at instead. So it's never, ever this doesn't work. Oh, well. It's always but have you thought of it this way, or look at it that way? And it's, writing takes courage. You're opening yourself up. You're being vulnerable. So I think that just wanting to be a writer takes a tremendous amount of courage and bravery to let yourself be vulnerable, because, the world out there can be mean, and we're not.
We also, a lot of straight editing, if you get your work edited by just a straight editor, they often tell you what's wrong, but they don't tell you why, and they don't tell you how.
because they don't know. They don't tell you what's wrong. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, because they don't know. I have found that to be true of editors, and I mean editors like at publishing houses and agents as well.
Yeah. So
if they know something isn't working, they can't tell you why really or what you might do to make it work.
Right. So that's what we do. In the course, you also we do 5 Q&As over the course of the 10 weeks, just like we're doing now. They tend to go a long time. We answer your specific questions. We help you with your doubt and your angst. We're on here really helping you through. And then we have a private Facebook group, which is, it sounds just like sort of a throwaway thing, like, oh, there's a private Facebook group, whatever, but it's really powerful. And we've got alumni, Story Genius alumni in there who are so helpful.
They're
and
so
kind.
nice. Oh, it's so true. I think Jen and I find sometimes we'll ask a question and an alumni will jump in, and I'll, before I can get there, and they read and I go, oh my gosh, not only are you 100% right, but you said it better than I would have.
Yeah.
And it probably took you like 2 minutes and it would have taken me 45. So, I'm just so like grateful. Yeah.
So people are in there asking about their stories. They're in there talking about, something's going on in their life and they can't write and they're stressed out. I mean, it's a very private, personal, supportive writing community to help you through this workshop. I want to talk a little bit, because we got a question that came in about how this is different from Lisa's book. I know we have a lot of people who are coming in now who are fans of Story Genius, the book, as you should be. It's an amazing book. What this course does is follows the same path as the book, because Lisa's method is a step-by-step progression. She has a system for walking you through the novel. But the course has been designed to be very doable in week-by-week chunks, so that we tell you exactly what we want to see. We tell you exactly how to do it. You have the feedback from the coach every week to walk you through. You've got Lisa and me on the calls every week. Mm-hmm. So if you're a person who learns really well from a book and don't feel like you need the feedback or don't feel like you need the community, the book is awesome. This is sort of, the workshop is sort of like the book on steroids, I guess. It's a very intensive iteration of Lisa's process. I want to just talk about, again, mindful of the hour coming up. I'm not going to read these. You can check them out, but these are some of the types of testimonials and feedback that we get from the workshop. I'll point out Lorraine's just because it's not unusual. We've had several students who have MFAs. I think in our first beta class, we had 3 writers who had MFAs. And, here Lorraine is saying, I feel like this is helping provide the exact missing things in my work that she didn't get from that MFA. This is, no matter where you are in your writing process, this workshop is enormously helpful, and it tends to really crack people's minds open. I also want to point out this comment from Linda where she says, I'm blown away by the depth of your comments. The comments that you get back from your coach are not just throwaway little good job or little notes. They're very intense. Okay, so this is a thing that says you get both of us. Yay! These are all my books. These are Lisa's books. The doors are, in fact, open now to this 10-week course. Some people ask, well, when are you going to run this course again? When can I do it again? The answer to that is going to be January 2017 is the next time we will be running this course for the public. So this is your chance in 2016 to get it in. And something I want to talk about, the timing. Some people may be freaking out like, well, wait, that's Halloween, that's Thanksgiving, that's, getting up to Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, it's overlapping the Jewish holidays. Like, I can't possibly do this intensive thing during that time. There is no, in this class, it's not like high school. It's not like you fall behind and are going to get, a demerit or something if you finish. This is a class that's teaching you a new method. We want you to learn how to do it. The videos and all of the material are available to you forever. So if you have a week that is a little rougher than normal and you're not able to produce the material for the class and get the feedback, or maybe you're only able to do a little bit, a page or two or what have you, that's so fine. And people still end up being really thrilled with the course. And we've designed, we arranged the timing on this particular workshop. I hope I'm saying this right, that the Thanksgiving is a light week, that week of Thanksgiving for sure. But if you have any concerns about the actual time it takes to do the course, most people are telling us that they spend somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 hours a week doing their Story Genius work. We have had students who've gone super whole hog and have spent more like 20 hours a week. That's pretty unusual. And that's obviously just their choice. But the 3 to 5 hours a week is a pretty good measure, and that includes watching the videos and doing the work. So the pricing that we have starting today, we have early bird pricing. It's good for a week, so you have 7 days to take advantage of that $6.99 pricing. I can't do the math right now, but I feel like it was somewhere in the neighborhood. Oh, I guess I can't do the math. It's basically $700 divided by 10 weeks is
$70.
$70 a week. I can do that math. It's $70 a week for this fantastic material and lessons and feedback. So that is available to you now. We also do have a self-study version of Story Genius where you get all the video and you get all the assignments and you get what we talked about before, the MP3 audio, the transcript. You get all of that. You just don't get the weekly feedback, and you don't get to be on the Q&As with me and Lisa, and you don't get to be in the Facebook group. But if you just are a person who wants the material and wants to dig deep into it and get depth of content and work through it on your own, that's a really great option for you. So, I think this is the last slide. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can look at the chat box and answer people's specific questions, Lisa.
Yeah, I can actually see them. I put the group chat up.
Okay, so one thing, the question that I'm going to go back to a question about how to craft the misbelief in a story where the protagonist has a flat character arc. This person mentions Katniss in The Hunger Games or Gladiator, where the environment is forced to change as a result of the protagonist's struggle, and the protagonist doesn't have a huge inner struggle that overcomes the misbelief. So in other words, the misbelief is a truth the protagonist holds on to, and the environment challenges their devotion to that truth. Can you answer that while I stop sharing the screen?
I think so. I mean, again, I have to say I didn't see Gladiator and I didn't read Hunger Games. But what I would say is that you're absolutely right. There's some, another example would be, a mystery series where you've got a detective who goes all the way through and they don't actually change that much. But I would say, and I would guess, that Katniss probably does change a little bit. And what you're still looking for is how she's making sense of the world and how what's happening out here in the world is causing her to change how she sees things. It's still that internal lens that we come for. Otherwise, you could just watch, think about it this way. If you watched Katniss and you were never in her head and you never knew what she thought or what she was struggling with when she was trying to figure out what to do or what things meant or how to get out of a situation, you would just be watching things happen and you would be like super bored, because why would you want to do that? Because it's super boring. So in that case, you really would be still diving into, okay, well, what is her core belief then? And how is the world going to challenge that? And how is that going to evolve as she goes forward? So, I mean, I wouldn't say, I don't know, again, I didn't read that in Gladiator. I don't know. I'm just picturing Russell Crowe in a kilt or something. I don't know. don't even know if I'm totally wrong. So it would be still that internal, how are they making sense of things? How are they being clever? How is what's happening challenging what they believe? What are they learning, and how are they then applying that to what's happening next? So you're absolutely right. There's some cases where there isn't some big, arc. Usually there is, but in some kinds of genre fiction, or something like Hunger Games. And again, I bet if I read it, I could come up with one or two. But I would guess that you are watching her beliefs shift a little bit. And again, if you don't have, and this is kind of what I teach, is that, and I'm turning, I don't know if you can see me. Oh yeah, I got the screen in front of it. So it's like, oh my God, I'm gone. Oh no, there I am. It still is that lens through which she is seeing everything and making sense of it. And that's what you're digging back to. In most cases, it is this misbelief. And often a misbelief could be something where it's not their fault, it's sort of the world's fault. Like in Romeo and Juliet, it might be, well, love is going to triumph. But guess what? It kind of didn't. So it's not necessarily 100% they see something wrong that's harming them. Sometimes it's the way of the world and learning that. But almost always it is they are learning something, and something they believe is slightly changing, and that's what's helping them get to the next scene or solve whatever that external problem is. So
I want to answer a bunch of questions from the chat that are sort of logistical, and I'm going to go really fast because there's a lot of questions. So one question about the course: is there a payment plan? The answer is no. We've had a lot of trouble with that in the past. So unfortunately, the answer is no. Jorge is asking two questions. One about if he writes in Spanish and writes in basic English, would this course work for someone like him? I don't see any reason why not. Lisa does not believe in fancy language, right?
I think it might actually be better because it would keep you, by definition, from making a mistake that writers often totally tacitly make, not on purpose, but that desire to write really pretty and make it sound really good, which is hard to do when you don't quite yet know what it is.
Right.
So this, I think, is really great because it would focus you only on it and not now how can I pretty it up or dive into it in some sort of metaphorical way or whatever, but it would focus you on what is important, which of course is what your story is saying and what you're talking about, and what your point is and what their lives were. So yeah, I think that could be a benefit, actually.
I want to answer a couple questions about genre. Jana is asking about coming of age, and Trisha's asking about romance. Coming of age memoir, I'm sorry. So the Story Genius program works absolutely for every genre. And in fact, Lisa's really good at romance, and a lot of the people in the program are romance. So there's not a lot in the book on romance because, we focus just on the genre I was writing, but it absolutely is very effective for that. And we are in talks about making some special workshops for Story Genius that are genre based, but that's not going to happen till at least mid-2017. In terms of memoir and it doesn't matter what kind of memoir, coming of age or anything, Jenna, we do have a number of people who've come through our workshops with memoir. It works very, very well. Lisa and I both believe that story is story is story. And we can coach you through memoir very easily in this program. Jocelyn asks, or maybe it's something not Jocelyn. I'm sorry if I've got the name wrong. Oh, Geraldine. Will the feedback come from the coaches? There's no peer reviewing, but you can talk about your book in progress in the Facebook group. And that's correct. And I want to really reiterate that. We don't believe that other writers who are working toward becoming published or are trying to figure out their own story, their own method, are the best people to give feedback to other writers. We think it actually does a lot of damage. A lot of writing groups actually do a lot of damage, and you do not give feedback on anybody else's work, and you do not get feedback from other writers in the program. You get feedback only from your book coach, and that is absolutely by design. We do have a new system by which you can make accountability partners. We don't do that for you, but you can go into a forum and choose to share, excuse me, share your pages with somebody in the program just to support each other and, you know, say like by Tuesday I'm getting my pages done. Will you hold me accountable to that? But we do not require or really encourage feedback from the other writers. We want you to get it from a pro. A lot of people are asking about whether or not they should start a new story or if they can come in with an existing story. And we have some very strong opinions about this, which I will try to answer. So in a perfect world, you would come into the Story Genius workshop with a brand new idea. Because the method asks you to really start from a place that we can almost guarantee you haven't started from before. And it takes you through some steps we can almost guarantee you haven't done before. And we have found that writers who come into the program with an already existing story that they're holding on to really tightly and that they want to defend tend to be the people who really get frustrated and do not do well. So what we want to suggest is that you come to this workshop with an open mind about learning a new method. And you're going to be doing that through working on an actual specific story of yours. That can be any story. It can be a story that you're in the middle of and you're stuck. It can be a story you just started. It can be a story you have a full draft of. It can be a story that you have been hammering away at for 10 years. But you have to have the mindset to set aside what you've done and do the exercises as if you haven't started the story. So in other words, for the 10 weeks, you want to start fresh. So let's say I have an entire, and obviously it's not a perfect world. The vast majority of writers come into the program with already developed material. But what we ask you to do is for the 10 weeks, sort of set it aside. It's like, okay, I'm gonna just put it over here for these 10 weeks. And I'm gonna look at these assignments that are asking me to do something. And the thing you don't want to do is go to your existing work and pull out something and answer to an assignment. Like, oh, I already did that. Already have that. Already know that. I'm going to go just get it and dump it in here and hopefully I'll get a gold star. That's not what we're trying to do at all. What we want is for you to understand the method and go through the method and do those exercises from scratch. Now, if you do that and then the 10 weeks go by and you return to your manuscript, it will be amazing how much power you have to go back to that manuscript and tweak things and change things and yank things apart and make them so much stronger. And whatever problems that you were having in that manuscript, you can probably now solve. And it's worth saying that we've instituted a new thing in the workshop. At the end of the 10 weeks, there's an opportunity to do a 6-week extension class where we dig into some topics that we can't get into in the 10 weeks. It's secondary characters, subplots, and flashbacks, and that's an extension course. And so either after the 10 weeks or if you do the extension course after that, you have the opportunity to keep working with your book coach, which is so powerful in the Author Accelerator program. And the new thing we instituted is that whenever you finish the Story Genius workshop, wherever you decide to make the end of your time, you get a 30-minute phone call with someone at Author Accelerator. Usually it's going to be your book coach, to help you decide how to best move forward. What should you do now with this material that you've generated and these new ideas that you have and this new method you have? And sometimes those conversations are going to take some tough turns. It might be that you decide, you know what, I'm scrapping my whole manuscript, or it might be I'm scrapping the first 3 chapters, or it might be I'm scrapping this whole secondary character. It will depend, but we're not going to just leave you at the end of the workshop and tell you goodbye. We will help you through that. So hopefully I'm answering everybody's questions. I'm trying to go so fast. Do you see any that you want to jump in on? Oh yeah, so somebody asked, is there support after the course? That's exactly what it is. You can stay in Author Accelerator getting the weekly feedback. We've designed a program to help Story Genius writers. This won't mean anything to you now, but to do a scene card and a scene on every one of your deadlines. We help with that.
I'm just scrolling through. I think someone asked about screenplays. Yeah, there's, as well. I think it does absolutely work well with screenplays, because screenplays are something where it's very easy to get pulled solely into the plot because they're so visual to begin with. And I think it really, really makes a difference there, and it can make the difference. Can I tell a quick story, Jenny? Do we have time, or?
I don't think so, actually.
Okay, never mind. But the answer is yes, so I won't tell the story.
You can hold the story because we may have time, but I want to answer all the questions. So, Jackie asks, is it possible to work on more than one project as long as we want to put in the time? And the answer is absolutely. We do have a number of people who are taking 2 books through the process because they want to decide which one to focus on. It's a really great way to do that. But that being said, you only get the feedback on one. We can't flip back and forth between them, and we can't switch in the middle, and we can't double up. So, I mean, unless you pay twice, but I think that would be insane. So, I would say no, you can't get feedback on two ideas, but you can absolutely, and I think it's a really smart idea. It's something in my private coaching I often recommend people do. They take multiple ideas through the beginning process. It's the best way to really decide what you want to do. Marcel is asking, wow, she's published over 40 children's novels, but this is her first.
I think it's a he.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is his first adult novel, and I want to do something new. This is going to be awesome for you, and I think you'll love it, and it'll be a great kickstart to that. Would a sequel to a novel work? Lisa, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it definitely would. The only trouble that you will have is the only thing, Jenny, because no one's ever asked us that before. I love it, like a new, fresh question. Is that, if it's a sequel, that means that whatever you established in that first novel as, this is so, needs to still be true in the second novel. So that would be, I would think, the only tough thing. You would probably need to let us know in the beginning what that was, and that then, if it's already published. I mean, if you've written this is a sequel, but you haven't quite put that out into the world yet, then you still could go back and change things. So it wouldn't be quite so key. But if it is out in the world and you've published it, it's been published, and now this is number 2. I would think, and Jenny, correct, leap in, obviously, because I'm just winging this, but I would think you would want to let us know in the beginning what was true and what wasn't, about who the character wasn't, so what could change and what couldn't. But then, yeah, absolutely. I mean, story really is story, regardless the genre, regardless the format, screenplay, movie, memoir, and, novel. And and genre as well, in the sense of, sometimes there's a difference between one character having a myth going all the way through, and and if it's a detective or whatever. But that said, it still takes place in that same plane, which is the protagonist's head and how they're making sense of what's going on and what it's costing them to do it. Because even if it isn't a misbelief, there's still some emotional cost and change. So yeah, that would be the only tricky part, is that it would have to remain true to whatever it is you'd already done, if that's already written in stone.
Right. Okay, so there's a couple good questions. I love that Joanna is on this call. She's one of our alumni. And do you see how helpful she's been in the chat? Like, that's our alumni. And Joanna asks if there's a retroactive 30-minute phone call for alumni. Absolutely. We keep making the program better and better all the time, and we want everybody who takes it to feel that we have way overserved them. So absolutely, Joanna. Just let Jade know. You guys, if you sign up for the program, you'll know that Jade is the linchpin of everything.
Love Jade.
You can reach her at jade@authoraccelerator.com. She has the answers to all things. Casey's asking, will the early bird pricing only be offered this once? It is for the whole week, Casey. You have 7 days to sign up for that early bird pricing to decide on it. And I what's that date? The 8th, on the 28th, it flips over to the $8.99 price. So as long as we have 60 seats available for this workshop, and that's actually something worth noting. This is not by such a long stretch of the imagination a type of course where 1,000 people could sign up and we're just like cranking out impersonal video. This is like, I call it like artisanal editing. It's one-on-one, really human contact, and we have a limited number of people we can offer it for because we have a limited number of people who are trained to do it. So we have about 60 seats available. And that, like I said, the early bird pricing is good until a week or until those seats sell out. Okay, so Marcel says, by the way, the welcome to the club email says it starts September 6th. That is a really good opportunity for us to say that this is all still really new. We've run this Story Genius workshop 3 times. So we have the kinks worked out, sort of, but there's today is a perfect example. There's technology problems. There's stuff like that. We are so far from perfect. So we appreciate any feedback about things we're not doing well or could be doing. And Casey, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we will always offer the early bird pricing on every one of these classes, I believe. I mean, I shouldn't say always. That is our intention. There will be early bird pricing for the next time. Okay, Geraldine asked a question I would love to answer about how do we match you with the book coaches? Is it random or specific to genre category? It is so deeply not random. Another person, if you work with us, that you'll come to know is Laura Franzini. She is our managing editor, and she works to do the matches, and she works really hard. And in fact, it takes her the whole first week of the course. She sees you do an in-depth Q&A at the start. You send us some pages. She often, she spends the whole week doing the matches. She has this massive grid, and there's so many things that go into it. Some of them obviously is genre. Others of them are just the topics that the editors particularly have an affinity for. If you're writing a novel that has sports undertones, is there such a thing as a sports undertone? I don't know.
I think so. It's overtone.
Oh, it's about sports.
Overtone, yeah.
It's about religion, or it's about the Midwest, or whatever the
or sci-fi or
exactly.
Speculative. Yeah.
We have people who specialize in all those and who have just topics they have an affinity for. We get to know our book coaches very, very well, what they like, what they don't like, what they're good at, what they are not good at, what they're trying to learn to be better at, whatever it might be. And we make those matches, and I would say that 9 times out of 10 or more, maybe it's more like 99 out of 100, the matches are, I hesitate to use this word, but they're magical.
So true. People
end up really connecting. They end up forging these deep relationships. It becomes very personal. It is not random by any stretch of the imagination. That being said, sometimes it doesn't work. And it's fine if in the first 2 weeks after you get feedback 2 different times, if you feel like, I'm just not feeling it, we will make a switch. And we have done that on occasion. And sometimes the book coach will come to us and say, I feel like this writer could really benefit from somebody who knows more about X. And so we may, in the first 2 weeks, do a little shuffling around, in which case we'll make sure that the new book coach gets up to speed on your work. Lisa and I will be overseeing to make sure everything's smooth. So, for the most part, it works really, really well. So just to be assured, it's not random. Most people end up being very, very happy. I found that oftentimes when people have a little difficulty in the beginning, it's not the actual person, it's the process of being edited. They're not used to being edited. And when somebody starts poking holes in your story and pushing you and going, but why, but why, but why, you tend to be like, I don't like that person. But,
they seem so nice at first.
I know, but it turns out to be not about the person, but about the process. Okay, so what else do we have? Okay, Charlotte, what's the difference between Blueprint for a Book and the Author Accelerator self-study version and the workshop? That's a tough sort of longer question, Charlotte, that I think would best be just worked on for you alone. We do spend a lot of time helping people choose between programs at Author Accelerator. It depends in large part on how much time. I mean, for sure, the Story Genius workshop is an intense program. It's 10 weeks. It's very assignment driven. We give you things every week we want you to do. It moves fast. You also start with a group of people. Blueprint for a Book is a program that is always available at Author Accelerator, and people start at any time, and they do start at any time, and it walks you through the beginning of writing a novel in a less intense environment and not so much of a community environment. And this is very significant. The only place to learn Lisa's Story Genius method is in Story Genius. Blueprint for a Book is my method, and although Lisa and I are super aligned, and I was the demonstrator in Story Genius, and we developed this course together in terms of how to present it and the curriculum and what have you. There's a lot of overlap between them, but Story Genius is the only place to get Lisa's methods. That, I just want to be clear about that. Somebody asked a question which I found super hilarious about, is Jorge, do you think we will get rich after taking this course and not have to work anymore? The answer to that is for sure. No, the answer is, Jorge, if you're interested in getting rich through writing, I mean, the only way that I know how to do that is kind of guaranteed is to crank out a series that your fans love and write a book like every 3 months and crank it out. And that's not guaranteed, but certainly I know that if you want to write good books, this class is going to help you. Rich, we can't promise. All right, let's see. So Marcel says, I have to go cook. He's in the Netherlands and it's evening. Thank you, Marcel. We want to know what you're cooking. So let us know that. And it looks like he signed up. So that's awesome. We'll see you in the class. A.Y. Chow is saying, is it 30 seats or 60? The website says 30.
It's true.
Well, that is one of those glitches. It is. Gosh, now I'm wondering, did I say it wrong? I thought it was 60. See, that's where we need Laura to answer. I will make sure that by the end of today, the sales page for Story Genius is extremely clear about how many seats there are left after people have signed up today. So if you're nervous about those seats going, and also I'm just gonna jump out on a limb and say this. I'm just gonna look. There's 24 people on the call. I mean, if you're on this call and you want to be in this class, I can give you sign up in the next few days. It shouldn't be a problem. Okay, Jade is helping me. See, I can't do anything without my team. It's 30, and now I'm realizing that I misspoke about the 60, and that's because we had the class in September that's just rolling, and they took up a bunch of those seats. So my bad. Like I said, we constantly get things wrong, but we try to make them right. So please let us know in the chat if there's any other questions. We can take a couple more if it would be useful about your project in particular, about whether you're interested in this class or have questions about it. think we cranked through all the questions, I hope.
I think so.
My favorite is still, is this going to make you super rich?
Yeah.
I think that's great. Oh, Casey is saying the sign up link is at, I know that, at least I think it's at authoraccelerator.com. It's story-genius. I sure. Yeah. Oh, that got weird. There's no space. Let me try again. Okay, story-genius. I mean, I try so hard. That's all I can say. Not sure if there's any other questions, but we are sorry again for the people still on the line about the technical problems, and you guys were really flexible and understanding to jump over here on this one.
Yeah.
Baffled by what happened. It was a little harrowing. But,
it was sort of fun, though. I have to say.
Is there anything else you want to say, Lisa? It doesn't look like people. Oh, there's a quick question.
Right.
Are there book coaches who have experience with YA, speculative, sci-fi, fantasy? Yes, absolutely. We have a lot who are really excellent at it. We have many book coaches who are publishing in those genres themselves. Most of our book coaches are writers themselves. They're agented, they're published, or they're not. But they passed my extremely rigorous test. We had... I'm trying to think the numbers. The last time we hired 175 people apply, and we hired 4. We're really rigorous about it, and we definitely have people who can help with that. Thank you, AY Chow, for thanking us and for not being upset at how many things we got wrong that you found that we got wrong. Okay, Lisa, is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. Just remember, you guys, at the end of the day, story is the most powerful communication tool on the planet, and that means you're the most powerful people on the planet. So, and my feeling always is take that power and please go out and make the planet a better place.
Well, on that,
we need you now.
On that note, I think we should say goodbye, and we hope to see you in the workshop, and if not now, another time. And follow my newsletter at jennynash.com or Lisa's at wiredforstory.com, and you will get lessons from us in that way and hear when the next workshops are happening. And I guess I should also say, because it's like a real thing now, we're doing a live Story Genius event in Los Angeles in March, and we'll be putting out the pricing on that in the next couple of weeks. So you can look at those blogs for that too. Yeah. Okay, I am now going to say goodbye. Geraldine, you're so welcome. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks to, I think it's FE. And thanks to all you for joining us. And Joanna, you were too cute that you came. I love you. And Joanna, go claim your time with a book coach to help you figure out what to do next. And thanks, Casey. Thank you for signing up. That's super exciting. And you guys are too cute. It's so fun, and it's our favorite thing to do. So
absolutely. I don't want it to stop. Wait just a minute. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
One more thing.
Okay, you guys. We'll see you in class or on our blogs, and good luck with your stories.
Absolutely.